So, welcome to the final module on this addiction recovery course. So, here we'll be discussing relapse prevention. After having gained enough tools to be able to steward your recovery, it's also good that relapse is a possibility. So, you want to be on guard. First, that it does not happen, but if it does happen, such that you can pick up yourself again. And relapse is not a single event, it's a series of events. So you want to know the steps that lead to relapse. Relapse is like a slippery slope and like a slow fade. So you don't want to catch yourself falling. You don't even want to go near the slippery slope. But if it does happen, you are falling forward. And knowing that you fall forward, it means you pick yourself back up again. You pick some lessons from the relapse or from the lapse, as the case may be, and then you continue. And what I want you to know on this slide is that recovery is not about never falling or never lapsing. It is about getting back up again every single time. So what is relapse? It's a process. It's not a single event. Many people think that relapse begins when someone uses maybe the substance or the behavior. But many times it begins much earlier, much earlier. There are phases and stages to a full-blown relapse. But before we get there, I want to differentiate between a lapse and a relapse. A lapse is a temporary setback. You used it once. You did the behavior once. It was a mistake. You were not planning to just fully go back into the addictive cycle or the addictive lifestyle. And you do not want it to become a relapse. A lapse can be an opportunity for you to learn, because you can then sit with it, explore, inquire, and wonder, and ask yourself, what happened? What area of my life was I not paying attention to? Which of my recovery pillars was weak that allowed this lapse to happen? So it can be a stepping stone back to your recovery, ultimately, if you steward it well. One mistake does not in any way erase your progress. In fact, 1,000 mistakes does not. It only does when you choose not to get up again. Now, what is a relapse? It means the individual has returned back to old patterns of addictive behavior. Their recovery routines are abandoned. So they're no longer sleeping, they're not journaling, excuse me. Excuse me, please. They're not sleeping well, they're not journaling, they're not meeting up with their accountability partner again. They're not keeping track of their progress. Exercise is no longer existent. They are not praying. They are not studying scriptures. They're not hanging out with people who will continue to steward and perpetuate their recovery. They're hanging out with the old addiction provoking cycle. Maybe they are old user friends, or maybe they are even now putting call through to their dealer. So it requires that you are immediately aware that I've gone from lapse, so I've gone to a relapse because now I've used more than once. So now, supposing someone then relapses, has used once, twice, thrice, 4 times, and now abandons the recovery pillars in entirety, it becomes dangerous then, because it would then say this individual is no longer fighting for their recovery, and then a full-blown addiction can develop again. And if it does develop, many times it's worse than the first one. If you ask people who have gone to rehabs and then come back and they relapse, it's always worse than the first one. So you don't even want to get to that place. If you catch yourself with 1 lapse, 2 lapses, 3 lapses, please pick yourself back up again. So there are 3 stages to a lapse and to a relapse. It begins long before you do the addictive behavior or before you take the substance. So your plan is to recognize it early. And from that place of recognition, you want to interrupt it. And then you want to stop it early. The first phase is emotional relapse. At this phase, honestly, the individual is not thinking about using. It's just that the recovery is beginning to weaken. So some common warning signs may be that you're not sleeping well. You're not taking care of yourself again. You're taking junks. Exercise, you're no longer doing exercise. You're no longer journaling. You're avoiding people who used to be supportive. Your accountability partner, now you're no longer picking the person's call. And you're not even putting a call through. Even when they see you and they say, okay, bring your habit tracker, let's look at it together. You postpone or you tell them you will come, and then you don't show up. And when you begin to skip therapy, you have a booked appointment, scheduled appointment with your therapist. They don't see you there. When you're no longer showing up at recovery group meetings, when emotions happen or situations that trigger negative emotions happen and you don't process them and you're just bottling them up, you already know by now how to process. You sit, you journal, you sit, you meditate, you talk to someone about it, and you make new meaning out of that experience. Or when the individual is experiencing increased stress and irritability, it could be a period of intense stress, emotional relapse would be said to have setting at that period. But the person is now neglecting prayer, reflection, is isolating, and is withdrawing. This stage can last for days or weeks. So it's like a whole week, no prayer. A whole week, you're not sleeping well. A whole week, you did not do all of the activities that was stewarding your recovery. That is emotional relapse. At this phase, you want to really be aware that, no, I'm not keeping track. In fact, your habit tracker should be able to let you know that, I've not really been consistent. So supposing you've done the 40-day habit tracker, I will say go another 40 days. Go 40 days in 3 cycles. By then you've done 120 days. 120 days is, how many months is that? 120 divided by 30. I think that's 4 months. By then you've done 4 months. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I think I'm correct. You've done 4 months. So your choice is then, do I continue to log this 40-day cycle, or do I think I'm good now? So now the mental relapse. At this point, internal battle begins. Remember, emotional relapse, person's not even thinking about any of the substance or behavior of abuse. It's just that their lifestyle, the tools they had is beginning to get weak. So at the mental relapse phase, part of you wants recovery. Another part is beginning to miss the addiction, because it's like you have a lot of backlog of emotional issues now that you're not dealing with. No, but what we said earlier, that addiction, behavior or substance is an attempt to escape deep psychological or emotional pain. So what are the warning signs at the mental relapse phase? The individual may begin to have very strong cravings and or urges. Then may begin to bargain that it will just be once. At least I've been sober for the past 4 months. I think I can control it this time. I'll just do it only once. And then I stop it. And then begins to romanticize past use. Be like, the time when we used to use, oh wow, how we used to feel. The kind of people we used to hang out with, the kind of conversations we used to have, the kind of relationship and connection we used to have. So he's romanticizing the past use. And then they may begin to minimize consequences, that it's not so bad after all now. There are other people who are using and they don't have issues. I can also use and still be able to put my life together. Then at this phase, they may begin to start looking up old contacts, their sex consorts, their dealer, their use partners, and the likes. Begin to look for the numbers that they've deleted or they have blocked. You know what I said earlier, block and delete, so that you don't have access to it again. And they may start visiting triggering places. So you used to smoke at the bar. Now you go to the bar and you're like, I just want to hang out. I'm not going to smoke. By the time you get there, you are already in a mental relapse. Or you visit the porn site and you're like, no, I won't masturbate. I just want to visit the place. You're already in mental relapse. And then at this phase, people begin to keep secrets because they're now making plans. They don't want people to know what it is they're doing. When they ask you, how are you holding up? I'm holding up pretty fine. You're not holding up pretty fine. The fact that you could tell a lie, then you're keeping a secret. Remember when you were not at this phase, if you're struggling, you'll be able to even be the one to call your recovery partner or your accountability partner that I'm struggling really bad. It's really been one crappy week. I just was able to just survive without using, but it's not been easy. So you were owning up your struggles. But at this point now, you're keeping secrets and even now making plans. So at this point, you want to talk about it. Isolation and secrecy is what fuels and perpetuates addiction. You want to talk about it. Don't fight alone. This is your window to act. So it means you want to urgently start re-establishing all of the recovery tools that you had at your disposal that you stopped using. By the time somebody enters a physical relapse, this is a visible stage. By the time that's when people say, hey, he has started using again, she has started doing it again. The individual returns to the addictive behavior. It did not begin that day. It began weeks, sometimes months, before a full-blown physical relapse will happen. So they are using the substance of the behavior. Now they've lost control. They've completely or almost fully abandoned their recovery routine. They have a deep sense of guilt and shame. They may continue to isolate more. They now have a risk of returning to the old lifestyle fully. So addiction may take over fully. That's a risk. So this is a crisis point. Again, you reach out, you get help, and you can recover again. Whatever happens, I say it again and again, pick up yourself again. Pick up yourself again. It's not over until you say you are done trying. So you also want to be aware of your warning signs. What are the things you would see in your life that will make you start saying, could it be that I'm at an emotional stage of relapse? Relapse does not happen out of nowhere. Your mind, your body, your relationship, your spirit would oftentimes show the first sign. So awareness will create prevention. Biologically, you're not sleeping well, or you are. Not because you don't want to sleep. Sleep is not even common. That may be something to be aware of. You're experiencing recurring profound fatigue and low energy. Cravings are increasing. Your appetite is changing. You're neglecting yourself, your self-care, exercise, you're no longer going for it. The things you used to do, you just find that I don't have so much interest. I don't have so much passion. I don't feel like doing it. It may even be that you have one of the mood disorders going on that for which you need to see a therapist, see a doctor, see a psychiatrist and get some medications. Because someone that says, I don't have energy, I don't have passion, I don't feel like eating, and you're not physically ill, maybe that there's a mood disorder going on. Because again, sometimes addiction is an attempt to self-medicate an unpleasant mood. And that by the time you dig it, or by the time you take away the addictive behavior or lifestyle, you now see the person without their self-medication. So you get to realize, oh, so this person has depression all the while. This person has anxiety all the while. So it may then be that when you stop the substance, you may then say, I don't have so much passion, so much energy after the drug has been weaned out of your system. Then you may find that, okay, maybe physically you're not feeling fine because your immune system is weakened. Those are also possible warning signs that would then make you want to buckle up and reestablish all of the backup plans you have. So your body at this phase is trying to tell you something. Don't ignore it. Then psychologically, what are some warning signs you want to be aware of? Anxiety or worry, feelings of profound, persistent sadness, hopelessness, a sense of hopelessness, irritability or anger, low motivation, when you begin to have negative self-talk, or you're struggling to concentrate, or you're now having self-pity or guilt. You want to pay attention to your thoughts and your emotions critically at this phase. That will be the time you reach out to a therapist. That will be the time you reach out to your accountability partner. You reach out to a recovery friend or a recovery partner. But at this psychological phase, if you can reach out to a therapist, it will be good. To be that, okay, this is the second month of my recovery, but I find that I'm really struggling bad psychologically, and then they help you process it. So within your social construct, what may be happening? You may find that you're withdrawing from others. You're avoiding friends or family. You have conflicts with loved ones. You're being dishonest and being secretive. You're skipping support meetings. You're not returning calls or texts. And then you are isolating yourself or experiencing loneliness. Whatever happens, don't isolate. You want to reestablish that connection again. What are the warning signs spiritually? You are no longer praying or engaging in worship. You experience this spiritual dryness. You begin to question your purpose. You're feeling unworthy. you're experiencing loss of hope, you're experiencing disconnection from God, or you're even ignoring your spiritual growth, at this phase, you want to plug yourself deeper in your worship community. At this point, you want to watch and binge listen to sermons. At this point, you want to plug in audio Bible even while you're sleeping, not while you're just awake. At this point, you're baiting, you have music going on, you have prayers going on in the background just to immerse yourself in that atmosphere of spiritual rootedness, so that it's like something wants to fly away and you're trying to anchor it. So it's like your recovery pillar. The spiritual pillar wants to disintegrate. You want to use everything possible to anchor it both day and night. And then you want to reach out to your spiritual director. That may be your clergyman, that may be your departmental head, as the case may be. I'm struggling badly. Could you pray with me? Could you agree with me? Could we study the Bible together? Just something that will charge you up again. Now, all of these warning signs, the truth is it happens to everybody, even those who are not struggling with any addictive behavior. It happens to everybody. It's just that it becomes more dangerous because you have a nervous system locked in survival that is just learning safety. So you don't want to get trapped back in survival. Getting trapped back in survival, many times you're looking for a means of escape. A means of escape many times is a substance or a behavior of abuse. So the truth is, biologically, psychologically, socially, spiritually, there will be situations where people will say they're experiencing a wilderness experience. The wilderness is a dry period. But if they don't struggle with addiction, it may be that their productivity will be a bit reduced. They may not show up so well as a father, as a mother, as a husband, as a wife. They may not show up so well as a worker, but then they pick up again. But trying to recover from addiction, the risk is greater for you. And the earlier you notice the signs, the sooner you can take action. So what are some high-risk situations? So those are situations, emotions, environments that can increase your vulnerability and trigger relapse. So some common high-risk triggers that you want to be aware of. We talked about alt. You're hungry, you are angry. Hungry doesn't mean only hunger alone or any kind of negative emotion. You're lonely, you feel that sense of loneliness, emotional disconnection from people. You're tired, you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're exhausted, you're burnt out. Those are high-risk triggers. Stress and overwhelm, another high-risk trigger. So you want to manage stress as much as possible. Financial pressure, you want to manage your finances, mitigate loans or debts. Yeah, I think that's the word. Live below your means. Yes, cut your coat a little less than your size, so that you have would I call it boundaries, or you have margins? Yes, margins. Should life throw you a curveball, you still have some backup plans, some savings that can save you. Then relationship conflicts. Then negative emotions. I already mentioned that celebrations and parties could be high-risk triggers because substances are usually available in that situation. And then if you're someone who has also not learned to manage being very happy, you may overdo and undo sometimes in celebratory modes. Then easy access to substances, boredom, and having lots of unstructured time. That's why I said if you don't have a job and you don't have school to do, then by all means volunteer. Don't make yourself idle. The idle hand is the devil's workshop. Holidays and travels, because it takes you away from your routine, except you're intentional about carrying your routine with you when you go on holidays. Then overconfidence, when you feel like, no, after 6 months, I'm good, Joe. Nothing can happen. I can't relapse again. At this point, I really think I'm good. Once you get to that point of overconfidence, what happens? You begin to downplay your recovery pillars. Please, recovery pillars is not just so that we can quit. It is so that we can build a life that does not need addiction in the first place. So please don't ever get to that place. It's 1 year, it's 2 years, it's 3 years. These pillars are pillars that anybody who wants to make something of note out of their life must engage with. If you want to be biologically, psychologically, spiritually whole, while you are amassing success under God, those pillars must be part of your day-to-day activities. Otherwise, you would work, amass success at the detriment of your soul or at the detriment of your health. There are many wealthy people billionaires who are very ill. And then you ask what happened. Maybe in the pursuit of fame, in the pursuit of wealth, they neglected their physical health. And there are those who have this emptiness, this sense of void within. And then you hear that the billionaire jumped off the bridge and you ask what happened. There was that void inside. Money cannot fill that void. It is only the size of God that can fill it. So these pillars are not just we're trying to break out of addiction. It is that we're trying to build a life that is going to be peaceful all around, that is going to be balanced all around, that come what may, we can still steward success and know that nothing is missing, nothing broken, nothing missing. So you want to ask yourself, which of these are most challenging for you? What situations would, what usually happens when you are in this situation? What healthy coping skills can you use? And who can support you during these high risk triggers? Triggers are not your enemy. The fact that you're unprepared, assume that relapse can never happen, is the challenge. So triggers will come. Just be prepared. You know, I said earlier, don't panic. Be prepared. So, but supposing someone then relapses, what do you do after? A lapse or a relapse does not mean that your recovery is over. It is what you do next that determines how and where the story goes. You want to respond quickly. Don't wait, tomorrow I'll decide what I want to do. You want to respond wisely. Don't be dilly-dallying about it. And whatever happens, keep moving forward. Keep moving forward at all costs. Immediately you want to stop. Don't continue using. Don't continue doing. One choice does not have to become many. So you found that after 2 weeks or after 1 month of abstinence, you found that you have wrapped a blunt and you took a couple of puffs, and then you catch yourself, go and flush it down the toilet immediately. Don't say I've wrapped it, I may as well finish it. Or you find that you have wrapped a whole blunt and you finished it. The remaining stash, go and flush it down the toilet. Don't say I bought it for 60k, what do I do with it? Do I waste it? No, you flush it down the toilet, including the wrapping paper, the lighter, you crush it and put it in the dustbin. Supposing you find that you've now engaged in porn and sex-related addiction. By the way, porn and sex-related addiction, its own recovery, it's a bit more nuanced, more complex, requires a bit more accountability than any other type of addiction. So if you go to the Foster Hayes account on Seller, you have 2 courses, affordable, that is structured particularly to sex and porn related addiction. But supposing you now find that you've engaged in that sex addiction, what do you do? Delete the number again. Delete the person's number again. Don't skip the number. If you have the images, they've shared the images with you, delete it immediately. Go back to your is it recovery folder in phones or in system? Go back and delete it immediately. And then tell someone immediately. Because shame would grow in secrecy. Healing grows in honesty. Your addiction will be perpetuated by secrecy. So you tell someone immediately, I did this or this happened. Tell someone immediately. Then you remove yourself. You want to leave the triggering environment or the situation. Change your setting again. And then you want to return to your recovery routine. Get back to the daily disciplines that have sustained you for the past 1 month, for the past 2 weeks, for the past 2 months, as the case may be. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't say, maybe after a week, I will start again. Start right now. Because that window that you're living, waiting to start in another 1 week time, is a crisis period that you could have several relapses before you know what's happening. Your recovery routine is out of the window already. Then you now want to learn from the experience. Ask yourself, what led to the relapse? And what can you do differently next time? What were you not paying attention to? Because what you're not paying attention to is paying attention to you. What were you not paying attention to? Which of your recovery routines did you downplay that led to this experience? Then you start again today. In fact, if you ever do have a relapse, please go back and watch module 12. Let it be a pick-up course, a pick-up video, a pick-up voice for you. So your past does not define your future. It is one decision, one day, one step at a time, and you keep going. Your relapse only becomes dangerous when you stop trying. Whatever happens, get back up, get help, get moving. Proverbs chapter 24, verse 16 says that though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. Honestly, I've also not seen someone who has had a full-blown relapse back to addiction 7 times. Not that it's not possible, it's very possible. I'm just saying from my own construct and experience, I have not seen. But even if you want to say 7 times, and I think there's a part in the Bible where Jesus says you forgive 7 times, 7 times, or 70 times, 7 times. So even if that is you, it means you tell yourself, no, 70 times 7, whatever happens, I get back up again. I get back up again. So turn every relapse into a lesson. By the time you are back up to your recovery routine, you now want to remember that this relapse, so it's an information, it's an opportunity for me to inquire. It doesn't mean failure. It shows that, because it will show you something that you can then use to build a stronger recovery that will last. Your relapse review will include questions like what happened? Describe the event objectively. What happened? Don't lie to yourself. If at the relapse review, you can copy it and give it to your accountability partner to say, if you ever do have a relapse, please ask me these questions. So what happened before? What were the triggers or the stressors in your life before the relapse happened? So what happened before? What were the triggers? What were the stressors that led to relapse? What emotions were you experiencing then? Name them, no judgment. I was tired. I was bored. I was sad. I was hungry. I was overwhelmed. I was confused. What was happening? The period leading up to that relapse. Then what thought were you believing? What was going through your mind? Is it that you were coming to that point where you're like, this recovery may not last, Joe. I may not be able to really keep it up. How long would I be able to hold up this craving? But were you thinking, I'm good now. This is the 6th month and I've been clean. I can handle it one more time and I'll be fine. So what were the thoughts that was going through your mind? Then what need were you trying to meet with the relapse? Comfort, escape, relief, connection, control, rest. Were you trying to rest? Rest would then mean that you were overwhelmed, you were stressed, you were pulled out too thin on many sides. It would then mean that you need to go back and assess your life. What's happening in your life that you're overwhelmed, that you cannot manage? In which recovery pillar was weakened in that period? Was it biological? Was it psychological? Was it social? Was it spiritual? Which of your recovery pillars was weakened? And what helped you to even be able to say, no, I'm going to pick myself up, however little? Was it guilty conscience that helped you? Or that you got a vision of who you wanted to be and who you did not want to be? So the vision of who you wanted to be, you set it as a fixed gaze in front of you. And what will you do differently next time? So you create a new, wiser relapse prevention plan. And then you may want to also go deeper. What pain were you trying to escape? What belief was operating in your mind? What healthy alternative was available? What support did you avoid reaching out to? And what has this experience taught you about yourself? Then whatever happens, self-compassion. You've heard that too many times on this course for you not to have allowed it to settle in your soul. So speak to yourself with grace after a relapse. Don't say things like, I'm useless, I've ruined everything, I will never change. What would that do? It perpetuates the addiction. You don't want to even come out of that relapse because you say, why bother? Speak to yourself as someone who is made in the image and in the likeness of God. Speak to yourself as God will speak to you. And what would it say? You made a mistake. And you take responsibility for it. And you tell yourself you can learn. And you can begin again. So self-compassion is not like you're lowering your recovery standard. No, the standard is still set as high as it is. It is that you are refusing to let shame become your identity. It is what you did, not who you are. And again, it is progress over perfection. Progress over perfection every time. So you use your relapse as a data. You know when they say data-driven things, let your recovery be a data-driven journey. You know the things that work and the things that do not work, and you have those data and keep them as arsenals. So you want to build your recovery toolbox or your relapse prevention toolbox. What are the things you want to include in your toolbox? Emergency contact. Who are the people you will call immediately if it happens? What are the verses that will remind you of God's promises, even in the midst of your failures? In the midst of a relapse. You want to remember to write your thoughts, your feelings, and your prayers. Yes, you can write your prayers. It's like you're writing a letter to someone. What are the songs that will uplift you, come what may? One of my favorite songs is there's no shadow it will not light up. There's no mountain it will not climb on. There's no wall it will not kick down coming after you. So that could be something you want to adopt. Then healthy activities, relaxation tools, your support network, your recovery meeting. You have to craft a compelling reason to stay sober. Your purpose, your family, your parents, your mother. I'm a woman. Your mother should be a compelling reason for you to stay sober. And I want to hope and trust that you have a good mother. Your spouse, your business, your health, your faith. You have enough reason. You must, or the generation that depends on you, and the life of those that is tied to your recovery. So you must craft a compelling reason to stay sober. So this will be like your personal reminders and reasons. You can have them as images, you can have them as an affirmation, and you look at them every day. And you yourself is enough reason to stay sober. So don't just list external resources and not make yourself the first person. Then what are daily affirmations? They are positive truths that you will use to renew your mind every day. Please remember, you cannot always control what happens, but you can control how you prepare. So your recovery tool, your toolbox is your bridge back to recovery, whatever happens. So your 4 pillars, this is like a final recap and a final reminder. You want to live out your 4 pillars every day. Really, if all the 4 pillars are well lived out, relapse it's unlikely. It's unlikely. It's unlikely. No cap on that. You look at it classically, critically. This is a life that you don't even want to escape from. So where is relapse coming from? Biologically, you're caring for your body because a healthy body will support a strong mind. Balanced meals, enough sleep, exercise, avoiding substances, attending your medical appointments if you have any medical illness. Psychologically, you're renewing your mind. Your thoughts will shape your future. In fact, it shapes your present and your future. So positive thinking, healthy coping tools, attending therapy, journaling your thoughts, challenging negative beliefs. Then socially, you're staying connected. You're surrounding yourself with positive people. You're joining support groups. You're being honest and accountable. And spiritually, you're working with God daily. That's through prayer, meditations, and reading of the scriptures, worship and praise, being serviceable to others, and staying in a fellowship of believers. So you plan your day and you set small, realistic goals daily, and you stay grateful. You stay accountable. You talk about your feelings. You don't bottle it up. You feed your spirit with the word of God. And you track all of these habits. So as we close, please remember that you matter. And you're worth every effort that you will put in on this recovery journey. You are worth the fight. You're worth a beautiful future, And I want to leave you with Philippians chapter 4, verse 13. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. All things, including addiction recovery. All things, including long-term sobriety. All things, including building a life of meaning and of note. All things, including amassing resources that you can hand over to the next generation, or even to those who will come after you, and say, show me how you did it. Your setback does not mean that you failed. It means you are a human still healing. It does not mean that you have to start over. It means that you get to start again and continue on the recovery trajectory. It means you are brave enough to keep trying. It means that hope is working in you and you're reaching for it. In fact, if you're watching this after a relapse, it means that hope is working in you. It means that your future is still in your hand. You've not given it away to addiction. As always, thank you for staying with me. And thank you for the past 12 modules of life transforming teaching and learning. And it's my earnest prayer and desire that the resources that I've made available here will be enough under God, of course, with God, to steward your recovery. And then you will be able to hand over these tools to other people who will come your way and then ask you, how did you do it? Be able to, I did this. And in fact, you will be a teacher, someone who can teach people how to come out of the shackles of addiction until we have a generation that is healed, that is whole, that is balanced. That's my prayer. Thank you very much. God bless you. If this has been helpful to you, kindly share it with other people. God bless you.